next example I'm going to go over for Sorites has one more premise than we did before, so we're actually going to have one more Venn diagram. But first, let's put it into standard form. Again, we look at the conclusion first, identify our major term, which in this case is x. There should be one premise and one premise alone that has x in it. So we start with that. No x or w. And then we look at the second term. We've already used up the x. We look at the second term, w. There should be one premise with w, or one other premise with w in it. So let's just let's cross that off there. So all u are w. Okay, so we've used up w. Cross off that premise. Now we've got to look for the premise with u in it. Right here, all v are u. Again, I'm going to leave a little space. Do whatever formatting you're comfortable with. Rod's got a technique. I use sort of the same on Crunch for Space on this whiteboard, but whatever you feel comfortable with, just feel free to use a lot of room. Make sure that your three-circle Venn diagrams are nice and big, especially when you get the X's and tight spaces. You want to be clear about what you're asking. But this is just the easiest for now. But so anyway, we're looking for the premise with u in it. All v are u. I'm going to leave a little space. All v are u. Cross that off. So we've already used up the u's. We go to the next term, which is all or v. Sure enough, the last premise, all v are y. I'm going to leave a little space again. V or y. And then carry down the conclusion, which is no y or x. Make sure I've got everything, no x or w, all u are y, all v are u, yep, up there, all v are y, no y or x. Okay, so let's just get that out of our mind for now. And this is our proper standard form. So that's the order that we're going to use. We're going to make a Venn diagram of the first two premises first. So let's label it. W is used twice, so that's your middle term. And then x and u. No x or w. Eliminate and shade out the x between, or the football between x and w. All u are w. So shade out the top right crescent. And then we look, just like we did in the first one, we look at the top two boxes to see if there's a sub-conclusion that we can draw from that. And just like in the first example, it looks like we have, through these two shadings separately, we've shaded out the middle space. So when you're dealing with shading, either you're looking for this crescent all shaded out, the football all shaded out, or something all shaded out on the right side. That's the only thing you can draw from the shading. When you have X's, which I think we'll see at some point in the next one, you're looking for an X in this crescent, an X in this football, or an X in that crescent. And those are pretty much the only conclusions that you can draw from the top circles. So, the conclusion that we can draw is that no x or u. Oops. So we're going to take this sub-conclusion and the second premise and fill out a Venn diagram for that. So let's label these U is used twice. So that's our middle term. Then X and V. No X are U. We're going to shade out this football between X and U. All V are U. It's kind of looking like the same. Shade out that top right crescent. And just like we did in the top, we can notice that we've shaded out between the two premises. We've shaded out, again, you don't have to do this on your paper, but just to remind yourself that you're just looking at the top two circles. Since the middle term has already been used up, that's irrelevant for now. We're focusing on the top two circles to see if we can draw a conclusion from that. Same as up above, we've shaded out the entire middle. So we can draw from that no X or V. And our last Venn diagram that we're going to test is going to be using that subconclusion and the next premise in the argument. So let's go ahead and label these. V is your middle term, and then X and Y. So no X or V, is that right? No X or V. All V are Y, right? Yeah, all V are Y. So we're crossing off that bottom crescent. And now we can look, since we're down to the conclusion, again, we look at these two premises, X and Y, and those are the two terms that are used in the conclusion. So we're looking at just those two circles, and we're checking to see if this is telling us that no Y or X. And that means that this whole football would be shaded. But, as you can see, the top part is left unshaded, so it has to be invalid. Remember that the conclusion at the end of a Sorites has to, that last Venn diagram, it has to give you all of the information that the conclusion is asking. And if it doesn't give you all of the information, then it's invalid.